just couldn't get through the day. I would black out. I remember coming to and seeing him as a toddler, just sitting there because it's him and I alone at home, and I just had no control over anything. And when we found out that it was PCOS, it was like 3 years of me going to doctors, trying to find out what is causing this, why is this happening. And I want to just, just remind you that this is many, many years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like, now I understand there are so many other treatments or remedies or, different things that you could do for PCOS. I didn't have that luxury. The first thing that the doctor did was try to remove the cyst from my ovaries. And I was supposed to have, without medication, no regrowth of anything. And in a record time, my ovaries were there, back with cysts again. So the decision to have the ovaries removed was presented to me.
Roberta and I were having a discussion before, because I was telling her about my personal experience with this, and the fact that my PCOS completely disappeared when I had my first child.
Which is so interesting, because mine started. Well, it reared its head, after I had mine.
Yeah, I was told it's the change in hormone in your body, causes it to completely go away. And I've never had the experience of having it ever since, having that first child. And that would have been, Sarah will turn 9 in December, so almost 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, when you were told that you had to remove everything, I know you probably would have been just in preparation for the surgery itself and not thinking about what's going to happen after.
Absolutely not. There was absolutely nothing that prepared me for what happened after. So my understanding was I just won't be able to have any more kids. My husband and I discussed that. We were fine. We were suffering as two very young people, just suffering through me being ill. And so we were just like, yay, we don't want any more kids. It's fine. We'll live with it. Nothing prepared me for what was to come. I remember waking up drenched. I always had to have a spare nightgown to change, halfway through the night, because I would be soaked as if somebody threw water on me. So that was the first thing that would have happened. The doctor at the time suggested that I do some level of HRT, and it's very different from what we have now. It didn't work for me at all. I was very, very sick on HRT. We tried it for probably a year. It didn't work. And then he said, are you still having hot flashes? And I was like, well, no. He's like, oh, well, you're fine. You don't need to bother with that again. You're finished. You've gone through menopause. So in the back of my head, menopause was a thing you go through once, and then you're fine.
Not knowing. And
I think Google wasn't, you couldn't Google things like you can Google now. And so I didn't have that opportunity to go and double check what the doctor said and, line it up to anything else. I just took his word for it. And I suffered through severe menopause, what I know to be severe menopause now, several years, not recognizing that's what it was.
Yeah, and it's more than several years, because if you're okay with it, you're now in your 50s.
Yeah, I'm 52 now.
And that started at the age of 24.
So more than half of my life.
Now, you also told me that you had probably every possible symptom there was when it came to menopause.
You name it, I had it. And I had it in the worst way. So, things were so bad, they checked me for lupus. That is how just awful the symptoms were. So you talk about frozen shoulder, check. I had therapy for that. You talk about, I used to have bone-breaking pains. If I just try to put my foot down on the ground when I wake up in the morning, it felt like if you were breaking my ankle. Yep, did therapy for that. I had a prolapse. I had a bladder prolapse. By the age of, I want to say 40, just before 40, that happened. Ringing in the ears, you know, I've always had vertigo, but it heightened. Yeah, you name it. I had it. I have osteoporosis, and that happened very early on. And again, you know, my biggest thing is, and what pains me the most is that 26 odd years of having no real solution or no treatment, I would say, for what I was going through. Just helped those things drag on for all those years. I remember going to the doctor. I signed off from going to the doctor, actually, because you would go, I know of the symptoms I'm feeling, like I know what my body's feeling like, and they'll tell me, okay, let's do this test and this test. Okay, nothing's wrong. That plays with your psyche, you know. You start to feel, well, you're going crazy because absolutely nothing is wrong. As a matter of fact, I remember a doctor saying that to me, all women issues are in their head. Yeah.
How disrespectful.
Very much so. And so, Christy, I had hair loss, not, you know, just bits and bobs, you know, like holding my hair and it all coming out in my hands, and patches gone. And all of it, I later learned was menopause.
Symptoms of menopause.
Symptoms of menopause. So we couldn't find an answer. I think for me, one of the most frustrating parts is that before a doctor sees you, they ask for your medical history. And the first thing I would say is that I had a bilateral oophorectomy and hysterectomy. The doctor should know what that means. Yeah. So how come nobody ever, not in one of the 100 of doctors that I saw, said, maybe you have menopause symptoms? Not one. Yeah.
Now, I had Dr. Watson on, Nadia Watson on before in this series, and one of the things she pointed out was that in medical school, you don't even learn really about menopause. It's a very short course.
Yes.
And you don't go into the actual symptoms or any big information regarding menopause. Do you think, in terms of our medical fraternity, more needs to be done when it comes to learning about these issues, health issues of women?
Definitely. Christy, could you imagine if even 10 years ago, I went to a doctor who said, Roberta, we can help you. All you need to do is try this. Because I promise you, I tried everything. I did all the herbal stuff, I changed my diet, I changed my lifestyle, any and everything that I could try to bring some level of relief. And for me, the biggest challenge was not knowing. You're not knowing why you're going through this or what's happening with you. If at any point in those 26, 27 years, a doctor said to me, would you be willing to try HRT, because we believe, with all these negative test results that we're getting, this could possibly be menopause. Yeah. Would you be willing to try? In a heartbeat. I remember at one point I was vegan. Now I eat gluten-free because I have celiac disease, right? But vegan was a choice. Because again, I'm just trying to find answers, you know, to help me feel better. And I went to the doctor and my cholesterol was off the charts. They're looking at me because at the point in time, I was exercising 5 days a week, lifting weights, doing everything that I was asked to do. My diet, when they looked at my diet, I had to, you know, give them a diet sheet based on what I was eating for 2 weeks. And they're looking at me like, why is your cholesterol high? Yeah. You tell me, I don't know, you know? And it was a fight to try to bring it to some normal levels. Guess what? Menopause. You know, and I had a full breakdown, I promise you. My husband is looking at me like, why are you crying about this? it was very, very difficult for me when I realized that I didn't have to suffer as much as I did.
So that leads me into my next question. When did you actually figure out that all these symptoms were a result of menopause?
So when I turned 50 a couple of years ago, it's as if my body decided, hey, you're supposed to be going through menopause right now, so let's bring it on. I'm sitting and I'm just hot flushes, and I'm like saying to myself, but I've done this already. Because the information that was fed to me was that I already went through menopause, so it's not going to happen again. It's something that's done. And I was like, why is this happening to me? And reading up a little bit, and I was like, hold on. It's present, continuous. It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
So what is going to happen is that your body probably experience different symptoms at different points in different ways, but it doesn't stop. And it's at that point I realized, okay, then I need to figure out what I need to do, because clearly what's happening to me is menopause. Looking through the symptoms, and of course now people are a whole lot more vocal about menopause. When I was plunged into menopause, my mother didn't go through menopause yet, so there was nobody for me to talk to. My friends were 24, 25. They're now looking to get married and have children. I was the only one who could even have this conversation. So who am I speaking to?
Yeah.
Nobody. And it's at that point I recognize that, hold on, I need to figure this thing out, because it seems as if it's menopause. World Menopause Day, last year.
That's in October?
That's in October. I was invited to an event in honor of, they're talking about menopause. I'm like, okay, fine, I should go, because now I'm actively seeking information.
Yeah.
At the time, my anxiety was a big one for me as well. It was so intense that I'm sitting in the vehicle, dressed, ready to go to the event, and just couldn't start the car. And just frozen, cannot move, can't say, well, could somebody please something? And sitting there and going through all the, emotions of that, my husband was like, why are you still in the driveway? Only to realize that I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move anything. I finally got to the point where I got to the event, and I believe that you also had this doctor on, Dr. Stone.
Yeah.
He was speaking at the event, and I'm there listening, and then I said to him, I asked the question to the crowd, like, what would you say to a woman who has gone through going through menopause for 20-something years? And he's like, that's insane. And so I met him there, and I took a chance, because like I said, I signed off doctors and therapy and treatments and that type of thing. And thankfully, I found my way to a better way of life through HRT.
Now, how has the experience been since you've been on the HRT?
Listen, y'all need to talk to my husband. 180, right?
Husband, she said that you will be coming as a guest on the show. Yes, it's a show to feature women, but we really need to hear the male standpoint in terms of having a partner who's going through. And I mean, who else but a man who has been there for the past, 30-something years, having a wife who has been going through this.
It was marked changes. The first thing was my energy levels. So within 2 weeks of having, because I'm doing pellet therapy, and within 2 weeks of having it, energy levels were through the roof. I was dragged, like bone tired all the time. That was my first thing. The next thing that he would probably speak about as well is I had zero sex drive. I had no libido, none, zero. For years, that changed.
You really think the man going to come here and talk about your sex life? He will,
because it's a big part of it, Christy. A lot of marriages don't last because of those types of symptoms for menopause. Then brain fog. So you see this long conversation we have in here? I couldn't string 2 words together to make a sentence, and 2 sentences to make any sense. And so that changed. And as we went along, it's just, you know, so the quality of my life improved, therefore the quality of the life of everybody else around me improved.
Yeah. Now, you know, from then to now, had you known what you know now, do you think it would have made a vast difference in the way you lived your life?
Definitely. I would have definitely had, because like I said, it's not like I didn't try different things, but I definitely would have introduced HRT earlier in my life. I would pair it with, because there was a point in time I was super fit.
Yeah.
You know, like really eating well and really going the extra mile again in my quest to find that good feeling for me. And I would definitely pair the both to have that just ultimate version. I would say Roberta 3.0.
Yeah. Roberta, have you ever met anyone else who would have gone through the same thing with you, having been thrown into menopause at such a young age?
Unfortunately, not yet.
Yeah.
But I do, I have met women who reach out from time to time. I haven't really shared my story totally, not for any reason. I just haven't yet. But there's snippets that, you know, out there. And definitely I've had women who would not have been as young, but that being shocked into menopause, you know, at any stage is really, really, really challenging. I'm about to say something that sounds weird, and it's like I do miss not having the same experience everybody else, most women have, going through perimenopause and, you know, missing the period and then not, and that whole peekaboo thing. Like I read women talk about it and I go, you know, I kind of was robbed of that experience. But I do 100% understand what it feels like still to have to go through menopause and all the symptoms and to feel as if you're not like you're going crazy because nobody believes this is really happening, or for doctors to insanely say it's in your head and that type of thing.
And again, I'll go back to another guest that was on his show, which would have been Jillian from Men-OTT, and clearly remember Jillian saying, you know, I am sure there are other people who are crazy just as me out there, because from going to the doctors and being told that nothing is wrong with you and yet experiencing these symptoms, you know, something had to be wrong.
Yes.
And, you know, what we're learning more with this series is that this is all natural. It's a transition every woman has to go through.
Yes.
Especially in Trinidad and Tobago, where we have an aging population.
Yeah, you're right, and I don't understand why it's so taboo, or, you know, why it is such. I remember when I had an aunt who said to me, you know, you need to still buy sanitary napkins and have it in your house. And I'm like, well, why? I don't see a period anymore. And she's like, no, because you're young and you don't want anybody to know that you don't have a period. And I'm like, I rejoice about this. It's not a bad thing for me, you know. So it just goes to show like how people think about that change or that transition in your life. And, you know, I really, really am very grateful that the conversations are happening now, because when I had it, there was no conversation. You had to hide it.
Yeah.
And I feel very encouraged by the fact that there are doctors who are willing to go back to school to learn about, you know, how to help us women who going through this very natural transition. Like I say, it's either you're a woman who came from one, we everywhere. Like, you know, this shouldn't be so out of the way or crazy to think about. It's naturally what we deal with.
Yeah, I think naturally as well, you know, women, they grew up learning what a woman should be able to do or do in life, you know, in terms of a woman's role is either as a housewife. The working woman, of course, is now a big thing, but having children, taking care of those children, and not being able to have children, of course, that plays on the mind.
Yes.
And a lot of us are not ready to deal with that, while some people have come to the realization that, you know, hey, if it has to be done, it has to be done.
Yeah.
There are others who, of course, it's still a very sensitive topic for them. You know, personally, after my twins, I had my tubes tied.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, you know, I wouldn't be able to have children again. Yeah, you know, but that's a decision I took. And now I'm like, thank God. I'm struggling with the 4 I have. Why would I want any more? You know, I already have the blessings I need in my life and want. But it's different for other women.
It is, and it's different when you make a choice to do something as opposed to something being taken away from you, or that option being taken away from you. I remember when my son was around 8, he's like, he wants a sibling, and I'm like, dude, here's what that cannot happen for you here.
Adopt.
This is not, you know, go find a little friend. It's not going to happen for you here. And I explained to him, so he always knew that daddy could have more kids, but mommy can't.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, no, I need a sibling from my mommy and my daddy, so okay, fine. And that conversation, thank God, didn't go on and on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can imagine for somebody who didn't make that decision. My husband and I sat together in the doctor's office and made that decision. And so I am very grateful for the fact that he says, he can't hold it against me or be upset with me for all that I'm going through. As a matter of fact, he thinks that's the reason he has the support, because he was sitting there with me and we both made a decision. And so we both have to deal with the outcome and the effects of it.
Yeah.
But he real glad I find each other.
Oh my gosh. It was similarly the same with me. You know, it was not a decision I made on my own.
Yeah.
I had my husband there with me when I made this decision, but my decision came because for every pregnancy, I was throwing up beyond sometimes the second trimester. And I'm like, I cannot do this again, you know, because the toll it took on my body.
Yeah.
I lost weight during pregnancy. People most of the time didn't even know I was pregnant, only until the final trimester when out to know where the belly pops out. But yes, having some women have wonderful pregnancies. I didn't have any wonderful pregnancy, and I really could not put my body through something like that again. Now, in the midst of all this, you started an organization called Yes She Can.
I did, yes. So Yes She Can really was formed in 2015 from my own personal journey again of trying to find this path to wellness and recognizing that most women don't take care of ourselves. So we wait until something happens before we decide to do what we need to do for ourselves. And so Yes She Can was formed over the years. COVID, I moved to Anguilla in 2018 maybe. And then COVID came not too long after, and it was a lot to keep the organization going, but we celebrated 10 years this year. And I'm really grateful for that, and I'm very, very proud that despite all the ins and outs and ups and downs, we've managed to maintain that.
Well, congrats on that anniversary. And then you have the usual, every year you have the special drive for graduation season.
Yes, for a night.
Yes, so we had Kimberly Forrest sing on in the previous season speaking about that.
Yes.
And how was that project this year?
Oh, amazing. We served over 600 students. For the first time this year, we made it to Tobago. And it was just amazing. We had over 200 volunteers over the 3 weekends. It's always awesome to see how the general public steps up and just really contribute to the cause, and then nothing compares to the smiles on the faces of those young people when they find something that they can use to celebrate one of the biggest nights of their lives.
Yeah. Now, we just have a couple minutes left, and I'm going to ask you, what advice do you have for other women out there who may be going through something that you would have gone through and, you know, just need that support from another woman?
Seek out the help. First up, know that you're not crazy. This is real. What you feel is real. Don't allow anybody to tell you otherwise. There are doctors. There are doctors who specialize in menopause. Do your research. Ensure that not everybody is for everybody, right? And that goes across the board. Ensure that you find one that you're comfortable with, somebody who doesn't make you feel like you're going mad, and will give you that support. Know that we have lots of women. You're not alone. All of us, we either going through puberty or we're going through menopause, or we're in that childbearing age. That's once you're a woman, this is what is going to happen. Find a few, just put it out there. I remember just saying, hey guys, this is me. I am Roberta, this is what I'm going through. Anybody else out here? And people answer the call. Yeah. There's the group MenoTT. MenoTT has a vibrant social media presence, and I'm sure they're looking forward to having more in-person things as well. Through Yes She Can, I plan to do the same. Find your tribe. Find the people who you can chat with, people who may not always, because like I said, I haven't found anybody yet. Maybe after this air, somebody's going to reach out and say, hey girl, this was me too. Yeah. I haven't met anybody who's been in menopause as long as I have been, but who knows? Who knows? And even if it's not that, there are other people who've gone through medical menopause that we could vibe, we could talk, we can support each other on that.
And one thing before we wrap up, which I want to point out, is the fact that the doctor told you, if you don't have the hot flashes, then there's no more menopause.
So find the right doctors. Do your research, because that is not true. And that's not true. And maybe that was his understanding of it how many years ago, but we know now that's not true, and we know that there is help. One of the things that really stuck with me when I started to search and do my research and whatever is that we for some reason we're suffering like a badge of honor. It's not. Yeah. And we don't need to suffer. We don't need to suffer through painful periods. We do not need to suffer through perimenopause. We definitely do not need to suffer through menopause. There's help. Yeah. There's help for us. Please take advantage of it. It looks different for everybody. That's okay. Find what's yours.
Okay. And on that note, thank you, Roberta, for coming and sharing your experience with us, a very unique experience, having to go through menopause symptoms from the age of 25 and still going through those symptoms. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. That's it for Breaking Stereotypes. I'm your host, Christy Ramnarine.
Trinidad and Tobago, CNC3 is celebrating 20 years. For 2 decades, we've brought you the news that matters, the stories that inspire, and the entertainment you love. And it's all because of you, our loyal viewers and supporters. Join us as we celebrate this incredible milestone with special features, unforgettable moments, and a look back at the journey we've shared together. CNC3, still yours after 20 years.
You're watching CNC3.
Martin Sporting Complex. It's the second game of a doubleheader, the final game in round 5, final game for these two teams. And alongside me, I have the captains of the two teams present, Brent Lizama from the Combined All-Stars and Darren Wilson from the Barataria Ball Players. The match referee for today's game, Mr. Mohammed Jaipal, he has the coin. Combined All-Stars is the home team, and off we go with the toss.